Hi everyone, I'm here to talk about the coronavirus. There's a lot of misinformation out there, a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, a lot of confusion, and I'd just like to clear up some of those pieces of information. So obviously the name is COVID-19. Why is it different to the flu? For a start, it's thought to spread easier than the flu. So for example, if you have the flu, you might spread it to one person on average. With COVID-19, you could expect on average each person who has it to spread it to between 2 people and 3.5 people. So by now most people are aware of the symptoms: the dry persistent cough, a fever, high temperature, trouble breathing perhaps, although there's some evidence to indicate that the difficulty in breathing is later on than, like, the initial symptoms tend to be the coughing and the fever. So some evidence is suggesting that the trouble breathing can occur a bit later on. If it gets more severe for you, then it can result in pneumonia potentially developing. But in most cases, people will recover from it. It will just be like having a bad cold or a flu. However, what you might not know is that people that have the virus may not show symptoms for potentially several days. What that means is that there are people out there who right now aren't showing symptoms who will have the virus, and some of these people may of course not be taking the necessary measures to protect themselves and other people from that virus. So that's why we talk about washing your hands. We talk about all these things that we can do. Behavioural patterns need to change. You need to, if you're visiting someone old, if you're visiting someone who is immunocompromised or is ill in some way, especially severe illness, cancer patients for example, you need to stay away from them. You certainly need to cover your mouth when you're coughing or sneezing. I mean, that goes without saying. Even if you're not showing symptoms, don't assume you don't have it. Take these precautions. Other methods that we can take to protect, like I said earlier, washing your hands. It sounds so simple, but use hand sanitizer or use just regular soap or antibacterial liquids. Apparently though, the science is saying that regular soap, is actually most effective at killing the virus, and that's because the properties of soap can interfere with the lipid layer of the virus and destroy it. In terms of how the virus gets into your body, how you actually can get infected, the obvious methods are mouth, nose, eyes. So touching, rubbing your eyes with an infected hand, for example. If you're sneezing or coughing, you can transfer the virus to someone else with the droplets and the droplets of your sneeze or your cough. So it's not an airborne virus. It doesn't transfer between people via the air. However, it can be carried through the air through droplets from your sneeze or cough. That's why it's important, if you're going to cough or sneeze, to cover your mouth. Now, we all have a bit of a laugh about the toilet paper bulk buying. Personally, I don't get that at all, but the truth is, it is quite serious, because what you're doing is you're actually preventing elderly people from being able to find and source these essentials like the toilet paper, and certainly like the hand sanitizer. I mean, I've seen it. I'm sure a lot of you have seen the shopping aisles empty at the soap aisles. You've seen the pictures online. You may have heard about the death rate, and you might be a bit worried about that, because you might have heard the 3.4% figure that the WHO released. That's mostly factoring the Chinese figure. The actual rate is probably much lower. In fact, it could be under 1%. Why is it under 1%? A lot of people are going to have a mild infection with this virus, or they're going to be mildly affected. About 80% to 85% are going to have a mild symptoms. Many of these people will not report their symptoms. And I know that firsthand. And because of that, the actual cases we have are absolutely, most definitely, much higher than what we're seeing. The health minister in Italy who's got this to say about the virus.
The problem is that it exploded there, and before you can realize what's happening, you are like overwhelmed by the mass of patients. So hopefully in other countries it's not behaving like this. But what is very, very, very important for every country, and that's why the real reason why I'm doing this is that everyone must understand that if you are not very careful in controlling the spread of the disease, this disease will overwhelm your system, no matter how efficient, good, modern it is. So the most important thing, besides creating new ICU beds, besides buying new ventilators, which is okay for people who are already sick, but the most important thing is to avoid a lot of people becoming sick. So you have to teach the population that they have to behave in some way in order to avoid the spread of the disease.
So overall, yes, it's serious, but there are things that we can all do. Just be careful about what you read out there. There is a lot of misinformation. I don't think we're getting told the full picture. I don't think the actual cases is represented by the figures that we're given. Especially in places like China, I think the numbers are much higher.
China's initial response to the coronavirus received praise, but now with the accusations of cover-ups, crackdowns, and even forced quarantines beginning to mount, is China trying to shut down coronavirus whistleblowers? The start of criticism towards the Chinese authorities was the death of whistleblowing doctor Li Wenyang. He's one of now 2 high-profile doctors to die as a result of the outbreak. A lawyer who was also documenting life in Wuhan has vanished. Friends and family said they believe he'd been forcibly quarantined. And Xu Zhuyong, who's a lawyer and activist, is also thought to have been detained. Zhu Zhangrong, a prominent academic, became the first high-profile figure to call out President Xi for his handling of the crisis.
First is to make sure that all of these information is not lost or deleted.
因为我们是不知道官方什么时候会把什么帖子删掉的，所以我们都是在跟官方比速度。
我们要保存我们的个体的记忆也好，或者是一种集体的记忆也好。
Voices like these from Chinese citizens are very rare. People who are willing to speak out about the government's attempts to control news about the deadly coronavirus. They ask to remain anonymous because what they're doing could put them and their families at great risk. But these people are part of a new wave of Chinese citizens fighting to get the message out in a country that aggressively censors information.
Thanks for listening to the video, and I hope it's been educational.